It's 4P meter. The backpack is on the floor. Your child is anywhere but at the table. You ask about homework. They say, in a minute. 40 minutes later, same scene. And what follows is a battle that leaves you both exhausted and nothing that matters actually learned. What if the way most parents approach homework is the very thing making it harder?
Yeah, it's the daily standoff, right? Millions of living rooms are seeing this exact same power struggle play out.
Every single afternoon. Welcome to today's Deep Dive. We're looking at some genuinely paradigm-shifting research today on the psychology of parenting and education.
Which is definitely needed for this topic.
Oh, absolutely. And our mission today is to entirely flip the script on that daily homework battle. We're going to unpack exactly why the standard approach, the nagging, the hovering, the endless negotiating, why that actually sabotages long-term success.
And then we'll map out a very specific, highly strategic shift to get away from demanding obedience.
Right, and move toward building actual ownership.
Which is such a vital distinction to make. I really want to validate the frustration of anyone listening right now because, that 4 p.m. battle is heavy.
Yeah, you've been working all day, they've been at school all day.
Exactly, and now you have to be the enforcer. But what makes this approach so compelling is that we're not just looking at abstract psychological theory here. We are talking about a highly practical blueprint.
Step by step.
Right, a step-by-step method for stepping back so a child actually has the space to step up.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to fix the problem, we first have to look at what's actually happening beneath the surface during those kitchen table arguments.
It's a hidden damage, basically.
Exactly. There is hidden psychological damage occurring while we're standing there demanding they finish a math worksheet. We really have to ask, what are you actually teaching when you force someone to do their homework?
What's fascinating here is the sheer unintended consequence of that force. When a parent uses threats or, constant reminders or just sheer force of willpower, the child learns one overarching lesson above all else. And that is that learning is something that is done to me, not by me.
Done to me, not by me. Wait, explain the mechanics of that. Why does my nagging translate to them feeling like a passive victim of math?
Well, it comes down to something in psychology called the locus of control.
Okay.
Think of it as who holds the steering wheel of a person's motivation. When you are the one setting the timer, threatening the loss of screen time, and standing over their shoulder, their locus of control is entirely external.
So the motivation to act is coming from outside of them.
From your voice and your threats, yeah. And the fundamental problem with an external locus of control is that the very second the external pressure disappears, the behavior completely stops.
Oh, wow. Which perfectly explains a phenomenon we see all the time. Think about the teenagers who were, by all accounts, perfect students in high school.
Right, the ones who check all the boxes.
Yeah, they get the grades, they do the assignments, but then they leave for college or move out, and they just completely fall apart the moment nobody is watching.
Precisely. They skip class, they bomb their first semester.
Right.
Because they never actually built an internal engine. They were just running on someone else's.
They were running on their parents' engine for 18 years.
Exactly. And the moment that parental engine was left behind, they had absolutely no forward momentum of their own. They didn't know how to initiate a task without the anxiety of a parent's disappointment looming over them.
It's exactly like dragging a friend to the gym every single day.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like you drive to their house, you pick them up, you tell them what machines to use, you count their reps. They might get a great workout in while you're there.
Sure, they might even build some real muscle.
But they aren't building a habit. The day you stop driving them to the gym, they stop lifting completely. They never built their own internal drive. They were just hitching a ride on yours.
That's a perfect analogy. The physical action was happening, but the psychological ownership was completely absent. And this research draws a very stark line between two distinct concepts here: force and support. Okay. And the distinction is brilliant. Force makes you the engine, support makes you the fuel.
I want to make sure I'm wrapping my head around that. Give me the breakdown of engine versus fuel in a real-world scenario.
Well, force, being the engine, says, you will do this because I said so. You will sit here until it is done. You, the parent, are providing all the kinetic energy to move the vehicle forward.
Which is exhausting.
It requires massive effort on your part. Support, on the other hand, says, this is your work. This is your responsibility. I believe you can do it, and I am here if you need help.
Ah, so you are the fuel in the tank.
Right. They can draw upon you when they get stuck, but they have to be the ones to turn the key and drive the car.
So if I'm the engine, I'm getting immediate obedience.
Yeah.
The worksheet gets done by 6 p.m. so everyone can eat dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm the fuel, I'm building ownership.
Exactly. And let's be honest, obedience is a short-term survival strategy for a tired parent.
Oh, absolutely.
But ownership is the long-term strategy that actually creates a functional adult.
Okay, I buy that completely. But here is the terrifying part for a lot of people listening.
Handing over the keys.
Yes. If we know that being the engine guarantees a rough transition into adulthood, how on earth do we actually hand over the keys without the car crashing into a wall? Dropping the role of enforcer feels like stepping off a cliff.
It really does.
How do we make this practical?
This is where we get into a very literal script for making this shift. But before we get to the words, there is a massive caveat about when you say them.
Okay, what's the caveat?
You absolutely cannot initiate this conversation during a homework battle. You cannot do this at 4:30 p.m. when the pencils are flying, voices are raised, and everyone is stressed.
Why not? Isn't that the moment they need to hear it most?
No, because in that moment, everyone's nervous system is totally dysregulated.
Give me the ELI-5 on dysregulated. We hear that word a lot, but what does it actually mean here?
Sure. When you or your child are stressed and arguing, your brains have basically shifted into fight or flight mode. The amygdala, which is the alarm system of the brain, has taken over. When that happens, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic, reasoning, long-term planning, it essentially goes offline.
So you cannot negotiate a new logical dynamic when your child is perceiving you as a threat.
They quite literally cannot process the structural shift you're trying to make.
That makes total sense. Trying to change the rules while they're crying over fractions is just throwing gasoline on a fire. We need the prefrontal cortex online.
Exactly. This conversation has to happen in a calm, neutral moment, like a Saturday morning over pancakes, or a quiet drive in the car when there's no pressure.
All right, so we've found our calm moment on a Saturday.
Yeah.
What is the actual script? How do I resign as the engine?
You look at your child in a very calm, supportive tone, and you say, your homework is yours. It belongs to you, not me.
Okay.
From now on, I'm not going to chase you about it, but I am going to let the consequences be yours if it doesn't get done.
Wow. It belongs to you, not me. I'm going to push back hard here because I can hear the alarm bells going off for parents listening.
I know, it sounds radical.
If I say that to my kid and just wash my hands of it entirely, isn't their teacher going to look at me like I'm negligent? Isn't that just giving up and saying, whatever, I don't care if you fail?
This raises such an important question, and it's the exact fear that keeps parents trapped in that exhausting enforcer role. They confuse stepping back with abandoning the child.
Right. It feels like abandonment.
But saying this belongs to you is absolutely not abandonment. It is a strategic shift. You aren't just walking away, you are transitioning from a dictator to a consultant.
A consultant.
Yes, you are going to co-design a structure with them.
Co-designing a structure. Okay, break down what that actually looks like on that Saturday morning.
Once you hand over the ownership, you clearly state you're off the battlefield. You don't just leave them in a vacuum. You help them build a system to succeed, but it's a system they help design, not a rule you impose.
So what do I ask them?
You ask open-ended questions. What time of day works best for your brain to get this done? Where in the house do you feel you focus best? Do you need a snack first? What kind of help do you need from me?
I see. It's like being a good manager at work.
Exactly.
If I have an employee and I micromanage exactly how they do a project stand over their shoulder, tell them which font to use, demand they work from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., they're going to hate the work and resent me.
They absolutely will.
But a good manager asks their team, what resources do you need from me to hit this Friday deadline? By letting the team own the workflow, they actually buy into the process.
That is a brilliant analogy, and the underlying psychology is identical. When the employee or the child owns the structure, you bypass their fight or flight response. Neurologically, autonomy is deeply rewarding.
Right.
If you dictate you must sit at the kitchen table at 4:00 p.m., they will fight the time and the location just to assert their independence. It becomes a power struggle, not a homework issue.
But if they say, I work best lying on my bed at 7 p.m. after I've played Xbox for an hour.
And you say, great, let's try your way. Now they have a vested interest in proving that their system works.
Because it was their idea. They own the blueprint, so they actually want to build the house.
Precisely.
But what about the edge case? What if I ask my kid, what structure works best for you? And they just shrug and say, I don't know, I just don't want to do it at all.
That's where you provide what psychologists call scaffolding. Scaffolding is like the temporary framework put up around a building while it's being built. It provides support, but it isn't the building itself.
Okay, so how do I scaffold that conversation?
If they don't know what works, you offer choices. You say, well, we can try 4 p.m. at the kitchen table or 7 p.m. in your room. Which of those two sounds better to try this week?
Ah, so you are still giving them the final choice, which maintains their autonomy, but you're narrowing the field so they aren't overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Co-designing a structure sounds beautiful and harmonious in theory.
Until reality hits.
Yes. We have our calm conversation, we set up the system, but they're still kids. Their prefrontal cortexes are still under construction.
Very true.
Which means, eventually, a Wednesday night is going to roll around, they're going to choose the Xbox over the essay, and drop the ball. So what happens when the inevitable failure actually arrives?
Yes, the crucible of consequences. This is where the theory gets tested, and honestly, it is the hardest part of the entire process for parents.
I bet.
The bad grade comes home, the missing assignment notification pings on your phone, or the teacher's note of disappointment arrives.
And the parental instinct is to absolutely freak out. You want to march into their room and yell, I knew it! I knew giving you freedom was a mistake! This is exactly why I have to stand over you.
Which is the fastest way to put yourself right back into the engine roll. But the research gives very strict guidelines for this exact moment.
Boy.
3 rules when the failure happens. You stay calm, you don't rescue,
Yeah.
and you don't lecture.
Stay calm, don't rescue, don't lecture. Okay, staying calm makes sense. We just talked about keeping the brain out of fight or flight. But let's dig into the rescuing part. What does rescuing actually look like in the trenches of parenting?
Rescuing means jumping in to absorb the pain of the consequence so your child doesn't have to.
Give me an example.
It means emailing the teacher at 8 a.m. to ask for an extension because your child had a really busy night with soccer practice. Or staying up until midnight hot gluing a solar system diorama while they're fast asleep because they remembered it at 9 p.m.
I feel attacked by that diorama example because we've all been there. We rescue because it feels terrible to watch them fail. And also, to be totally honest, we don't want the teacher to think we run a chaotic household.
And that's entirely human. But we have to look at the psychological cost. When you rescue them, you are fundamentally communicating 2 things. First, you're telling them that you do not believe they are capable of handling adversity or failure.
Wow.
And second, you rob them of the exact natural consequence that would motivate them to change their behavior next time. If mom always finishes the diorama, why on earth would I ever learn time management?
Right. The pain of the 0 is the teacher. When we take away the pain, we take away the lesson. Okay, so no rescuing. What about the 3rd rule? Don't lecture. If they fail, I need to explain to them exactly why they failed so they understand.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of human behavior, lecturing almost never works the way we think it does. Lecturing is usually just the parent venting their own anxiety.
Really?
Yeah. When you launch into a 10-minute monologue about responsibility and their future college prospects, you just give the child something else to focus on, your anger.
Oh, wow. So instead of thinking about they're missing homework, they're just thinking about how mad I am.
Exactly. They don't have to reflect on their own poor choices at all. They just have to hunker down and weather the storm of your lecture. You become the bad guy again.
You give them an easy out.
You do. The dynamic shifts back to me versus my parent instead of me versus the consequences of my own actions.
So if I can't stay up until midnight building the diorama and I can't yell at them about responsibility, what do I actually say when that F comes home? Do I just stare at them in silence?
You ask one singular, incredibly powerful question. You look at the consequence, you keep your voice completely calm, and you say, that's hard. What do you think you'll do differently tomorrow?
That's hard. What do you think you'll do differently tomorrow? Okay, that feels uncomfortably brief. Why is that specific phrasing so effective?
Let's break it down because it's a brilliant psychological intervention. The first part, that's hard, offers empathy. You are validating their discomfort.
Right.
It sucks to get a bad grade. You are stepping to their side of the table and saying, I see that you're struggling, but you aren't offering to fix it.
Empathy without intervention.
Exactly. And then the second part, what do you think you'll do differently tomorrow? That gently, firmly, and completely hands ownership of the failure right back to them.
It assumes they can solve it.
It assumes they are entirely capable of solving their own problem.
It forces them to do the mental heavy lifting. If I'm lecturing, they just nod and wait for me to stop talking. But if I ask what they're going to do differently, they actually have to critically evaluate their own choices.
Correct.
They have to formulate a plan. They have to say out loud, maybe I shouldn't play Xbox before I start my math.
And when they say it, they believe it. If you say it, it's a rule to rebel against. If they say it, it's an insight. It reinforces that you are on their team. You are the consultant asking how the project is going to get back on track. You aren't the boss yelling about missed quotas.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at this entire framework, the shift from being the engine to being the fuel, the calm Saturday handoff, the co-designing where we bypass their fight or flight,
And allowing them to feel the friction of failure.
right, without rescuing them. When we do all of that, we arrive at the ultimate realization of this deep dive, which is that homework isn't really about homework at all.
It never was. I think parents get so fixated on the micro details, but the specific details of a middle school history worksheet or a fifth grade math problem are largely irrelevant to a child's overall trajectory in life.
Nobody cares about a worksheet from 10 years ago.
Exactly. Homework is actually just a low-stakes training ground. It's a daily laboratory for learning the absolute most critical skills of adulthood. It's about executive function.
Self-management.
Yes. Following through on an obligation even when your brain would much rather be doing anything else. And perhaps most importantly, learning how to pick yourself up, pivot, and recover when you totally mess up.
Those are the skills that will shape their adult life, their careers, their relationships, far more than any specific academic assignment.
And the hard truth that every parent has to wrestle with is that those skills simply cannot be built by force.
You cannot force someone to become self-reliant. It's an oxymoron.
You can't. Independence is built by a parent who has the discipline to step back, a parent who trusts their child enough to let them feel the weight of their own choices. Because the sting of a 0 on a spelling test in 5th grade is a much better teacher than getting fired by a boss at age 25 because they never learned how to meet a deadline.
Absolutely.
Which perfectly sets up a final thought for us to mull over today.
Yeah.
Because handing over control like this is not easy.
No, it's incredibly difficult. Often people confuse this approach with soft parenting or just letting kids run wild. But it's actually the most highly strategic, disciplined thing a parent can do.
It takes real work.
It does. So I want to leave everyone listening with this challenge. The next time you feel that overwhelming, anxious urge to nag, to hover, to force the issue at 4 p.m., pause. Take a breath.
Just wait a second.
And ask yourself a really honest question. Are you trying to manage their homework, or are you just trying to manage your own anxiety about their future? Because stepping back requires the ultimate parental courage, trusting your child enough to let them feel the weight of their own choices. If this shifted something for you today, we've put together a free guide that goes deeper, including the exact conversation to have, how to create a homework structure your child actually owns, and what to say when the consequences arrive. It's called Stop Forcing Your Kids to Do Homework, and it's completely free. Download it using the link in the description below. Because the goal was never homework done tonight. The goal was a self-directed human being. We'll see you on the next one.